I think the biggest thing for someone starting out in sales is realizing that you do have to build that pipeline, right? You're not gonna walk into large deals
And just
you're gonna start out probably on the bottom of some totem pole, wherever it is, eating crumbs, and then you have to build your brand. Now, the flip side of that is the amount of money that you'll make on the flip side of a pipeline is like you're gonna eclipse however many years you would work in some standard role. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the number one podcast in the world,
where we help you become the number one version of yourself and live a life of impact.
Bro, you changed the whole thing up.
I know.
Doesn't matter, because it's still true. In any case, today's topic is going to be the reality of living or working in a commission-based job. So Andrew and I are both in commission-based roles. That's right. I'm in tech sales. You are a mortgage broker, technically, is the title, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of very relevant to today. I guess I'll just kick it over to you and we can talk about why we're talking about this today.
So I guess the main reason why we're going to talk about this today is because it is such a relevant topic when you are someone that is goal oriented and you're someone that wants to go after a particular goal, right? Or a dream or aspire to achieve something in your life. For us, we just did an episode last week where we were discussing our plans on purchasing an Airbnb.
Yeah.
So why this is relevant today, the reason that we're discussing it is because for me, for instance, I had a certain number that I literally was planning on hitting that was going to give me everything that I needed for my down payment, so I didn't have to dip into reserves or savings, and I was going to have it last month, right?
Yeah.
Right after we recorded that episode, I was supposed to have that ready to go. I had deals fall through. They fell through totally unexpected, and what I thought was going to be a massive month still ended up being great, but it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And so, it's kind of like in commission, you really don't want to count your chickens before they hatch, so to speak. Like you don't want to count your dollars before they're closed.
Yeah.
And so, that is unfortunately the reality of a commission-based role. Now, months could be bad, months could be fantastic, but in my opinion, and the reason that I'm still doing what I do is because I don't want to work for anybody else. And I like not having to go to a 9-to-5 every day or being responsible to anybody else or really for anybody else. I'm responsible for my own pipeline. And it kind of gives me the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it, wherever I want to go.
Yeah.
So
mine's a little bit different. I'm not responsible for my own pipeline, but very different industries, but very similar. I actually had a deal I was just talking about here before we started recording this that was supposed to close in Q3. Got pushed due to, as you know, sometimes customers aren't the best. A lot of things can cause a deal to either like stop existing or get pushed out a quarter.
There's a million ways to kill a deal. And
yeah, basically negotiations stopped going well. And so instead of closing, at the end of Q3, which for us is the last day of September, we're now looking at a Q4 close, and the way that I get paid on commissions means I'm actually not going to get paid on this deal until January, which is not the end of this month, which is when I would have got paid. So I still do have some other commissions coming in, but exact same as you, like my whole breakdown of what I was going to make at the end of this month is different now. And that's just kind of the reality. I jotted down when you were saying that. It was like, why even do commission-based work in the first place, which you touched on, is you kind of have control over your own destiny.
Hopefully. Depends on where you work and the type.
Yeah.
Like as you just discussed, we're both in sales.
Right.
And we're both on commission, but we're in two completely different roles with two completely different products and two completely different operations.
Yeah. So I would say for people watching this, if you're thinking about getting in sales, which I recommend to most people, by the way, I do think that sales-based work is the best type of job you can do if you have goals similar to us, where you're trying to, kind of have more control of your destiny, and then ultimately do something entrepreneurial and like buy Airbnbs, right?
And it's a great starting block, I think.
Right.
Sales just translates into so many other things.
Yeah.
For instance, if you're in phone sales or you're in
this cat,
the cat doesn't make a single noise until we press record.
Hey, Titus, shut up. Shut the. No.
So I think if you're looking to get started, sales, the skill set that you're going to learn and acquire through sales can translate into every avenue.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be good at negotiating, hopefully.
Yeah, you'll learn.
You're good at closing.
better.
It'll help you in, I think, relationships. Hopefully, you're not manipulative with the skill set. But it can help you kind of defuse arguments of some kind, because when you have a disgruntled client, you're trained to kind of think that the client's always right, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they just need to be educated, and you have to understand where they're coming from in the story as to like what happened in their scenario or why they got burned in the past and how you are different. And then you have to unlock that, uncover that, kind of nip it in the bud, and then educate as to why this is not going to happen that way and how you're going to help them get to their end goal. And so that, for instance, helped me a lot in my relationship. It helped me a lot with not just like being in a relationship, but with relationships with family, with friends, with a lot of other people.
We're getting deep.
Yeah, no, we are because like
sales-based relationships, people.
But I think that honestly, the skill set of not only that, but trying to stay organized with who you have to keep up with, keeping a calendar. I'm terribly disorganized when it comes to that. And I'm still successful. Yeah. I've gotten way better than I was a few years ago. But, that's something that has also helped me in my day-to-day life outside of the business.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, the things, first, just talking about business before jumping to the relationship side of it, like all companies are sales-based companies, right? So I think a lot of people have this idea of I even thought this way too. Like I was an engineer before, and I was just like, making things is more important. I'm creating something from nothing, yada, 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 which has its merits. That is true, right? There's a beauty in craftsmanship and creating things. But, if you want to, sell that to somebody so you can make a living, ultimately, you have to go through the sales-based process, right? And to make someone understand or realize the value of something that you've created, whether it's a product, a piece of art, a service, right? There's a conversation that has to happen, and you have to understand, like you said, where they are, what do they care about? What are the actual problems?
How can it help them?
Right. How can it help them? Like, what problem do they need to actually solve? And is that the same as, are you meeting them there? Very often than not, and what you'll find out is you might have something, let's say it's a spoon, and you've created it for, eating cereal, and then somebody comes along and says, hey, this is the perfect spoon for pulling putty out of this container, right? Because they need that for some reason. You didn't even think about using a spoon for scooping putty out of a container, but suddenly your business is exploding because people who need to scoop putty out of a container are buying your spoons. Yeah, that's kind of what you realize. And so many of the businesses that you'll end up working at are facing, I would say, this opportunity and or dilemma, right? And it's the same thing in relationships, and realizing like, what you bring to the table or what you have to offer may not be even the exact reason why somebody's even interested in you in the first place. It's like, what exactly, are they looking for? Or do they care about? And it's all the same thing, right? It's all interpersonal relationships, and kind of, I always call it meeting people where they're at. You always got to meet people where they're at.
That's true.
Before you move them, anywhere else. The other thought I had, before I forget, going back to why I think sales is such a smart thing to do before, regardless of what you want to do, right? I don't think everybody needs to be in sales, right? There are always going to be people that have to do literally every other job, right? Everybody can't be in sales. Doesn't make any sense. But I think everybody should do some type of sales work, because you learn all of these things, and you learn to appreciate that, like, wow, like the only way that we can employ all these other people is if we ultimately sell the same product. And those are the people who are making that happen at the end of the day.
That's true.
Unless you have a product that sells itself, which,
Yeah, and I mean, you have to also differentiate sales and marketing, because both have their role.
True.
So, there's really a two-pronged approach, in my opinion, if it's not something that just sells itself that everybody needs, right? If it's a need-based sale, then, it's kind of self-explanatory. You're going to go buy it. Like, everybody needs Band-Aids, for instance.
Yeah.
Or 1,000 other items. But, if you're like on the marketing side, for instance, you're still in sales, so to speak, but it's kind of soft sales. Like, you're utilizing your creative side. It's not as much in your face, unless you're kind of on like the video side of it, right? But marketing has its role, and I feel like there's always been a clash between marketing and sales. And in
Definitely.
a lot of organizations, people get so upset, especially in accounting, when they're writing the checks to the sales guys, and they're like, "What the heck? This guy worked like 5 hours and he made 5 times what I made," you know?
Yeah.
And so they don't understand that there is an incredible skill set behind what we do, right? And you know, at the end of the day, everybody is selling something. You're always selling something, even if you're not in sales. You are selling something when you go out to the bar and you're you know, trying to meet somebody,
Looking
or
for
you're
a
at the
shorty.
gym, you know,
Right.
you're selling yourself. Now, hopefully it's an authentic version of yourself.
Let's double click on that analogy, because I think most people can relate to this, male or female, right? You're out at a bar and there are a number of prospects, right? And you want to sell something. You want to build a relationship with this person. And this is we say a cold relationship, right? It's a cold call essentially.
Yeah.
And
It's a cold approach.
you know, it's like, what are the process, or maybe like what's the process in your mind that you walk through, going back to marketing, and then also sales? It's like, how do you go from 0 to, you know, hopefully whether it's getting their phone number or, you know, maybe taking them home, whatever your goal is,
Yeah.
right? Like that is a sales process essentially.
Well, you know what? Now that you mention it, we can dive a little bit deeper into this, because I think this is a very relatable topic. So if you think about it from the aspect of like the marketing side, right? I feel like your marketing is your appearance.
Yep.
That's the first thing they see.
Or you even leave the
That's the
house.
flashiness. And if you translate that into, you know, your business, that's your branding. That's your brand image. That's your logo. That's the shiny, you know, surrounding of who you represent.
Before
yourself
anybody talks to you, here's what I think about. Before they know anything about you, what is their perception of you?
There you go.
Right?
It's
They
huge.
don't know what you sound like. They don't know what you know.
Yeah.
They don't know where you've been. You know, like nothing about you, but they're still going to have a very probably clear perception of you based off of, you know, what shoes you've got on, what watch you've got on, is your hair done, you know, is your shirt ironed or not? Mine's not ironed. Sorry. But yeah, like that's all marketing, branding,
true.
like you said. It's
Yeah.
like before you like
Because you set the first impression by that presence, by that presentation.
exactly.
Whether it's in your business or it's in yourself walking into a bar. Like you said, you know, if you've got the crispy shirt, you've got the nice loafers on, you've got the denim, and you've got a rollie on, like your impression's a little different than the scrub who just like left the gym and rolled out to the bar to grab a quick drink before they went home.
Right. And both might cater to specific audiences, right? But you need to know what is going to get the attention of the person that ultimately you want to sell to, right? So there's a marketing side of like, okay, we need to build pipeline. That's marketing. You know, how do we get people who have literally never engaged with us or seen our product to come through the door? You know, it's something we think about, like how do we get people who maybe haven't watched this podcast yet? How do we get them to watch the entire podcast?
Absolutely.
That's something we've thought about our branding, right? And then ultimately you sit here, you listen to us talk about this, and you're sold, right? So it's something everybody has to do. And then there's the closing, right? The sales, right?
But so past the marketing point, which is obviously we've discussed as your first entry, the appearance level, right? Now the sales kicks in
right.
when you do the approach,
And
right?
we all know, going back to your point, sorry, I keep interrupting you,
No,
right?
you're
But
good,
this is
you're
this is ultimately what I want to get to, right? Is like, why does that sales guy get paid so much more than the marketing guy?
Because how many times have you, and I'm guilty of this when I was younger, is I would get dressed up, I'm crispy, I've got everything's all
right.
like to the nines,
T's.
right?
Yeah.
I go out to the bar and talk to nobody.
Right. Exactly.
Dude, when I was younger, I would go out and I'm like, oh, I'm fresh, I look great, tonight's my night. Go out, I would be standing in the corner. You know, and it was inauthentic because I'm a fun guy. I like to dance. But I didn't really have the confidence behind that yet. So I hadn't really had, you know, didn't really grab the balls to go out there and do the approach or to go out on the dance floor to do what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that actually ended up spiraling in, and this is something totally off the wall, but that ended up spiraling into something else where at the time I had to like drink so that I could kind of like lose my inhibitions and then become that.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean
so to
that's
speak.
relatable. I think to 99% of mankind.
Yeah.
I mean, especially as dudes, like, you know, and I would even add to that and say like, so you have that presence, and marketing matters, right? But there still is that point where you have to go up and you have to actually talk to the girl.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a girl, you have to, you know, whatever women do that they call hints, you know, to get you to come over and talk to them in the first place. You still have to do that action, right?
Yeah.
We all understand the fear of rejection, or even just call it failure. that can happen in those interactions. And that's the exact same in sales. You know, I've
Absolutely.
been in meetings with people. You do a demo, you know, we do what we call discovery. We try to understand their problem. I think I have exactly what they're looking for. I'm like, oh, damn, like I'm exactly what you need. We've got it right here, right? And then they just go, not for me. I want that one. And I'm just like, did we have the same conversation?
Yeah.
Like, and that's where becoming a better salesperson really, you know, and then you have to ask yourself, you know, did I really understand their problem? Did I understand or have what they were looking for? You know, does my brand fit, you know, their brand or the type of brands that they want to associate with? And it all comes full circle, right? You could be the greatest, you know, most personable guy, and we've all seen both sides of it, right? That's why the two have to come together, right? But maybe, I mean, if you look dingy, like you could be funny and people are gonna hang out with you, like people are gonna like you. But if you're dingy and a girl is like, you know, let's say she's uppity, right? She's probably not gonna mess with you, like, because that's not your brand doesn't fit her brand.
Yeah, because your brand is going to negatively impact her brand and the perception of others.
Right. When people look at you, they're gonna be like, I don't get that, you know, like it doesn't add up. So, but the vice versa is true, where, you know, maybe you have two brands that click, which makes it easier. That's why branding is important. Like branding will get you in the door, and then after that, it's like, okay, now how do I keep them in the door? How do I get repeat customers? How do people get people to stay? And that is by, you know, solving their problem, you know, meeting them where they're at.
Well, I think we can even go further into the same example where, you know, especially here in Miami, it's like, how often do you find an authentic representation of the marketing?
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that's very challenging here in Miami because, you know, the sale they're good at, the marketing they're damn good at. You know, the marketing looks great, shiny object, beautiful banner. It looks absolutely stunning. They put a lot of, you know, time into it, right? You don't know who was fronting the bill, but they put a lot of time into it, right?
Somebody.
And then they go out and they're selling like an inauthentic version of themselves. And what you don't want to have happen is, you know, when that happens in, let's say, the setting of the bar, for instance, you know, it can lead to a point where you start gaining a reputation of, oh my God, that's the girl that did XYZ, you know, or that's the guy that, like, you know, he doesn't make any money, but he's driving in the rental, right? And you don't want your brand to be impacted that way when it comes to your business. So you want to be the most authentic version of yourself. So for instance, like we created this brand of becoming the #1 version of yourself. That's really our intentions. And we have authentic intentions on helping people do that by discussing our story. And, you know, we're not trying to flash some crazy thing and then have no material or like not be authentic. We're not getting on here and sharing like bullshit stories. You know, this is like from the heart, like stuff that we've been through.
Everything is real. And right. You know? So it's what I always like to say, and going back to like, it's funny. I was actually talking to a dude. I don't know why he asked me about this too. Cause I would, by no means would I say I'm the best, like, you know, womanizer when that's what I was doing. But he's like, Forrest, I need help talking to women. And I was like, dude, you need to be yourself, but you need to be the best version of yourself. Like his whole thing was like conflicted. He's like, well, I don't want to act fake or all that. And I'm like, yeah, but don't be whack. You know, I think that was the word I used. It was like, don't be whack, you know, like be the clever, funny, confident version of yourself. Like the version of you, like after you just won a medal and like nobody can say nothing to you. Like that's how you want to be when you're out first interacting with someone. And then after they realize you're a normal human being, you can be regular. So like, don't be fake. And we're not trying to be fake, but obviously we put a lot of effort into this production because, you know, that's something that we care about. Something I care about greatly is quality. It's like, am I doing something to the best of my ability? Knowing that I'm not like this all the time, obviously. You know, sometimes, you know, I'm tired or, you know, whatever, not rich yet, tell you that. But we're on our way. You know, we're both, you know, achieved a level of success that I think a lot of people would even aspire to just where we're at now. But we're showing you the inside of everything and really the journey. And those are the type of the conversations and people that we want to bring on, by the way, as well. You know, not necessarily just like, hey, look at the Lambo, but more of like, you know, what type of person, you know, and what type of life did they live to get to this place, and the people who are really doing it too. I think that's the thing that's missing in Miami. I've only been here since March. But, you know, I can read people. New York is similar, but New York I'd say is a little more authentic. But in Miami, it's definitely like, hey, look at me. And it's like, all right, I'm looking at you. You know, what else is there? Which is fine. You know, I love the city, by the way. It is what it is. There's merits to every type of lifestyle, but yeah, you can definitely you can smell it here, man. There's like
it. You know what? So I'll be honest with you. When I first got here, I could not smell it at all. I'm like from the sticks. I'm from the country in Virginia. Yeah. Like I assume that everybody is very genuine.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I got burned a lot when I first got here because I just assumed that everybody was telling me the truth.
Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy because I was that guy. You know how there's those people, if you're in sales, and if you're not, you'll find out. There's those people that just are easy sales.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're like, this guy just ate everything that I said. I didn't even have to try, and he bought. You know?
Right.
And that was me when I first got here because I just assumed that everybody was telling the truth and that they were all genuine. They all wanted my best interest. And it wasn't until I got burned enough times where I became slightly jaded to the point where I was like, it's hard to sell me now. I have so many walls built up that it's like, I don't want to give you my money.
Yeah.
Like you really have to show me why this is something that is worth my investment for me to do and why it's worth my time.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is, that's a lot of customers that you're going to encounter. Like they're not assholes because they're assholes 9 out of 10 times. You know, you got that 1 out of 10 that really just is an asshole, but you've got some that they've been burned so many times that that's their defense mechanism where they don't want to get burned again. So they have to go on the defensive, and sometimes it can come off as offensive where they're like super aggressive and they are like, get out of here, get off my phone, whatever the case is. Right. And
I think it's safe to say people generally don't like salespeople. I'll just put that out there. Like, whether it's car sales or like brokers or anybody, like people look at salespeople as like scalpers of transactions almost. And it's for that reason. It's because there are a lot of shitty interactions that have happened. But that's why you have to be, and I'll let you finish your thought, you know, a solution-based salesperson.
Exactly. I was going to get to that.
Yeah. Versus, we'll go ahead and finish.
Well, that's huge because, you know, obviously if people have their walls built up, it takes a lot to dig through that, to get those walls down. You got to find out what the hell happened, who did you dirty, why is that not going to happen again by working with, you know, it's just a lot. It's an uphill battle. But what I've done with my branding and my image is I've branded myself as the expert. I deliver a service. I'm not, you know, out here, you know, kind of gas people up. Like you either qualify or you don't qualify. And I don't want to waste my time working on your deal if you don't qualify. So you're going to upload your information, you're going to fill out your application, upload your documents, and then I'll take a look at it. And then I'll let you know if we're going to continue this conversation. If not, I'll give you my expertise on how we're going to get there later. But I'm not going to waste all this time trying to sell you on something I don't even know if you qualify for.
Right.
So when you are that expert in your field, just like you are in yours, people respect you and they almost bring their walls down on their own to elevate themselves to you, so that they can say, oh, well, I do qualify. Like they're selling themselves to you as to why they should be qualified.
Yeah, and those are the best. And that goes back into, you know, the branding side, right? Is if you show up, going back to our prime example, because I think it's super simple. If you show up and you've got nice shoes on, you've got a nice shirt, et cetera, there's a certain class of people who are going to want to stand next to you.
A resonate.
And start conversations with you, straight up. And if you show up looking dingy, likewise, there's a certain class of people who are going to want to stand next to you and start conversations with you.
Yeah.
And then from there, we'll call that pipeline. Through that pipeline is what you get to close.
Absolutely.
But pipeline always comes first. And there's a number of ways to generate it. Branding, marketing is part of it, but you know, part of it is also like outreach, et cetera. But yeah, you from there get to choose what to close, and ideally, you know, at that stage where you're having those conversations, you're figuring out, okay, of these people that I'm talking to and rubbing shoulders with, what do they care about? Are there problems that I can solve? And how valuable are those problems? That's really what sales is. A lot of people think sales is like, I'm going to convince you to pay this amount of money that I want you to pay for this thing. And that's not really it.
That's not even fun.
Yeah,
that's not fun for you or the other person.
It's really painful.
I've been in that type of business, and that's not fun.
Anytime I'm in a call or situation like that, I'm like, you know what? This even goes so far as like, here's this other product that you should use, honestly. Because it's just not going to work. Especially, you know, I'm in enterprise sales, so our deals could be anywhere from, you know, 20, 30 grand up to a couple $1 million, right? Yeah. And if you're trying to solve $1 million problem, what's interesting, and I'm sure you've seen this more, the bigger the problem, the less the money, the number even matters at that point. It's just like, it's like, I have a problem that's so painful, especially in my business. Yeah. It's like, it's costing us like $2 million a year. If you can just solve that, let us
pay
know.
whatever.
Let us know what we got to pay for it, right? And those are the people you want to have. I don't want to be going to companies and be like, are you sure you don't have a problem? Like, are you positive? Because maybe it's like, no, it's like we want people who are like, yo, we heard you could help us with this.
Yeah, no, I
It's
love
like,
that.
yeah,
I love
we can
that.
help
And
you.
so that's honestly how I built my business here in Miami. I hate saying this. I don't even want to say it. The
You can do
smaller the deal, the more horrifying headaches it is.
Always.
So
I think
like
it's every industry.
$200,000 to $300,000 loan will cause me so many headaches, and a $2 to $3 million loan will be one of the easiest loans I've ever done.
Yeah.
I've had like the middle area where they're decent and they could go either way, but like it tends to be that way. Now the way that I built my business was by doing exactly what you're doing. So what I initially did was, or exactly what you said, I initially marketed myself as the jumbo luxury expert. I had literally never done a luxury jumbo in my life. All I did, my average loan amount was like $300,000.
Yeah.
And so I started marketing myself this way, and it was kind of like this whole Miami, like fake it till you make it thing. And that's how I initially started, and I had never done one. And my first deal was a $2.4 million deal. And so I ended up closing it, thank God, with the help of my team. And after that, we did such a good job that we got flooded with business, but it wasn't based on the loan amount. What ended up happening is obviously that was my target to go after that, but I specifically knew that I was good at one thing, which was doing deals that other people couldn't do.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I built, as a broker, I can work with so many different lenders. So I found lenders that did products that nobody had. So down here, everybody's like, oh, if you're a W-2 borrower or you've got your tax returns, will help you. But everybody and their mother does those deals. You can walk into any bank in the country and they'll do that for you, right? But I said, what's my problem? My personal problem was I wrote off everything on my taxes for the last several years. As a self-employed person, I literally have not paid taxes. How can I get into a mortgage? And everybody that I spoke to was like, you don't qualify. I said, well, how the hell do I qualify? So I found a bank that said, we can qualify you. And I said, can you qualify everybody like this? And they said, yeah. And then we have all these other programs too for people. They don't know income statements, no tax returns, blah, 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 all these different programs. And I said, this is amazing because people don't know this.
Right.
So I went to every realtor that I could through Instagram. And I said, hey, send me all of your rejects. Send me people that I met at networking events. Send me people that have gotten denied, that are self-employed, that are looking for jumbo loans or whatever the case is. And all of a sudden I got a flood of new business. My pipeline was so big that we had to expand and build a team around it. And so I ended up joining my best friend at the time, and still my best friend. We've started several businesses together. We failed several businesses together. And he was like, I'm going to build this whole back end. He had built this whole back end system for another loan officer. And he was like, join the team and we'll take care of all these deals, because I was so overwhelmed.
Nice.
And so we started like really solving these people's problems, which was they could not get approved anywhere. And that's how we built the business. So we became experts in the industry for doing deals that nobody else could do. And that's how our business has thrived ever since. So now we've gained the respect of, imagine you're a realtor. You've got somebody, you thought they were pre-approved for a $3 million purchase. That's a huge commission. That's like $90,000 for a realtor, right?
But and then suddenly,
oh my God, this guy doesn't actually qualify. We can't get him into this house. Well, what do you think you're gonna do as a realtor? You're about to freak out because you counted your chickens before you hatched. You thought you were gonna get a $90,000 check, right? So that's where I come in and say, I got that for you. That's easy. I'll take you through this other program, and your client's gonna pay me $15,000 to get it done. That's our origination fee, or whatever. I'll name a fee, $5,000, $10,000, whatever. And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna pay it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they may lose their earnest money deposit. There's a whole bunch of things that could go wrong as a result of this deal falling through. And so that's how we built our name. Now, because you solved that impossible problem for this agent, they're now sending you all of their friends. They're sending you all of their other easy deals, all their easy peasies, because you showed up and you solved a problem that nobody else could solve. And that is the emphasis of the best type of sales.
It's that easy, guys. And there's a lot of work, by the way. Also, if you fit that bill and need a mortgage, hit up Andrew. Yeah, man. I mean, it's and the key to that story there is you found something like very relatable, like your own experience. You're like, I bet a gazillion other people go through the same thing. Let's just create a business around that. And that's kind of the heart of entrepreneurship and all that. Anything else we should hit on? I think.
Well, I think we can go back to, what was the initial point? It was about
Well, we've diverged greatly.
Yeah, we've
the initial,
diverged.
The initial point was the impact of living a commission-based business.
Yeah, so let's
this is
bring
the
that
impact. You just fucking
Yeah,
talk about stuff. You know, I don't know.
yeah. Oh my God.
I think really,
Let's bring it back.
I think the last point. Well, we talked about like starting out and like kind of setting expectations of like, you know, your quarters will be different.
Yeah.
You can't count your chickens before they hatch. I think the biggest thing for someone starting out in sales is realizing that you do have to build that pipeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna walk into large deals
And just
you're gonna start out probably on the bottom of some totem pole, wherever it is, eating crumbs, and then you have to build your brand. Now the flip side of that is, and this is why a lot of people don't want to get into it. They're afraid of like, well, I don't want to take a pay cut. Is the amount of money that you'll make on the flip side of a pipeline is like you're gonna eclipse however many years you would work in some standard role.
That's true.
Just
Absolutely.
like straight up, like it's not even close.
Well, that and
with the amount of money, you make, it's like
when I moved back to Miami, obviously, on one of our other episodes, I discussed kind of like the downfall of a business that we lost. And so when I moved back to Miami after that, I got back into the mortgage business and I had a couple of options. So I still had my Series 7 and my 66.
Mm-hmm.
And I was offered a job at a bank and they were like, oh, we'll give you this base salary. And at the time I was like, dude, that's super attractive. Like I can pay for my rent. I can pay for my car. I'll have a couple grand left over and I'm straight.
Yeah.
And so there was a temptation there to fall back on that. And then the other side of me was like, I'm going to literally shoot myself if I have to walk into this bank and sit there from 9 to 5 every day and talk to people. I'm going to literally freak out every day. And I know I'm going to get into an argument with my boss. I know I'm going to hate being there. So I was like, I'm not doing that. There's absolutely no way. I let my Series 7 to 66 expire, like gone, because I did not want that as a fallback. I literally didn't want it as a fallback. Yeah. And then I went to, doing 100% commission again, which is what I was doing before the business. When I got into that, for the first 3-4 months, I literally made nothing. And I still had to pay for my car. I still had to pay for my my apartment in Brickell, which at the time was a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Brickell's blown up in the last year. And so like a couple months after that, COVID happens. And so I didn't get paid for months. I burned through all of my savings. And I'm like freaking out because I'm like, I should have taken the job at the bank. What was I thinking? I would have been straight. They would have paid me, at least something, right? And so I started doubting myself. And then that's when I came up with the idea where, there's a ton of people that don't qualify right now because of COVID rules and things of that nature. What can we do? How can we solve a problem for other people that don't qualify traditionally? And that's when we kind of went in that route. And then the business blew up. And in my first funding month, after I built a pipeline of people, my first funding month, was as big as that annual salary that they were going to give me at the bank.
Exactly.
And so, after that, it just became a snowball effect. And by snowball, I don't mean that it was like just upward trajectory. Every single month I got paid more, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, it
was literally like
the stock market. It goes up generally, but sometimes it goes down.
but by snowball, I meant the leads kept coming in and the business, because when you build a reputation for yourself of being the expert, when you build a reputation for yourself of being the go-to person that gets things done, gets things closed, and always puts your neck on the line to make sure that things happen, then you start getting more business and your pipeline will build. And as your pipeline builds, things fall off, deals die, but things start closing. And all of a sudden, 1 month you get $5,000, 1 month you get $50,000, 1 month you get $6,000, 1 month you get 60. It's crazy, and it'll be like this. And when you look back at the year and you look at your savings or you look at whatever, hopefully the idea is in sales, you look back and say, damn, like I really crushed it, But I think in sales, it is so hard because our business is always set on closings, which are never, it's never like I close a deal once a week. And, it's easy when you look on the goal board and you're like, all right, well, if I close 8 deals this month, I'm going to make X amount of money, right?
Right.
But you drop that down, and that means that I got to close whatever the numbers crock down to. I have to make X number of phone calls, and you build out these scenarios. So at the end of the day, you're like, okay, if I make 50 calls a day, that's going to translate into $50,000 this month, right? And that's like the whole premise of it. But what happens when you've dialed for 3 weeks and you've literally made nothing and nothing's closed? All of a sudden, well, what's going to happen is you're either going to quit and you're going to say, screw this, I'm going to go get the job at the bank or wherever, or you're going to make that one phone call on the 4th week And every phone call after that is a slam dunk. Bam, 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 right? And it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes it could be 3 months, not 3 weeks that you go dry. But then all of a sudden you blow up. And so it's kind of like just always putting in the work. You have to put in the work, even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, you know, this is kind of a maybe a philosophical thing, is like, are you willing to do what it takes to get it done or not? That's how I look at a lot of stuff in life. Yeah. I'd say everything is like, you're either going to do what's required or you won't. And sometimes people don't do what's required for good reasons, right? Sometimes it's hard, they get tired, right? Life is messed up. Maybe someone passes away. These are real reasons. But at the end of the day, you're either going to do what's required or it's not. And there are a ton of people who've quit sales or tough, you know, whether it's ventures for good reasons, but the difference between them and the people who didn't quit wasn't a good reason. It was mindset. Because there's, for every person who's quit, there's somebody who didn't in the same or worse situation, right? Every time. And so that's what I always think about. I try not to compare myself to other people in a bad way, but I always think, man, am I giving up because I can't do this? Or am I giving up just because I'm full of doubt today? Wow. And because I haven't been successful yet, right? And it's like, I always have to ask myself the question is, what would somebody who's successful do in my situation? Obviously, they want to quit. It's that simple. It's always that simple. And so, like you said, it's like, well, it's really easy. It's really, really easy. And all your friends will probably support your decision. Your family will support your decision to just go get the job at the bank. Because it's like, oh, you tried your best. Well, you gave it a good shot. And parents, you got to pay your rent, right?
And at the end of the day, parents, they want you to be stable anyways. They don't want you to be calling, like bitching about how I haven't made a check in 3 months.
They're only thinking about risk. People are risk avoidant, right? People spend most of your brain power avoiding risk, avoiding downside in all aspects of life. People, the key is to get to a point where you're not thinking about risk. You just accept that you're going to get fucked up. You just accept it. And think, okay, knowing that that's true, whether I work at the bank or otherwise, what can I get done? And now I'm preaching, because this is how I think about like life. This is stuff that wakes me up at night. I literally will not sleep about this stuff. It's like, okay, I can either be unhappy at the bank, I could struggle, but one path or one journey is me becoming the best version of myself, right? And that's what this podcast is all about. Yeah. So, and not to say that sales is like you becoming the best version of yourself, because there's tons of people in sales who aren't happy. The point is that it is a means to having more control on your life and unlocking income. And quite frankly, income in the world that we live in buys you time, which is ultimately freedom, right? Absolutely. So if that's your goal, if your goal is to buy time, buy freedom, the freedom of not being afraid of just debt or bills or whatever, sales is a great way to do that.
Well, and that's I think touching on the goal piece is going to be huge for a lot of people, because they used to tell me, so my first sales job, my first sales job out of school was at Edward Jones, where we met. And this was like literally door-to-door sales. Like we had to literally go out in the streets. We had to map out a neighborhood, and we had to knock on people's doors from the morning until the night and try to pitch them investments.
People don't like that, by the way.
Yeah, no, they don't like that. But the point in kind of bringing up that scenario was, one of the things that they used to preach to us over and over again is, what is your why? Mm-hmm. What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Because when you're out on that doorstep, the first doorstep will literally make you throw up. When you're about to walk to the door every day, I was sick to my stomach. I'm like, I don't want to freaking do this. And I didn't understand at the time, because I guess I didn't have one strong enough, but that why will carry you through so many ups and downs in sales. And when you have these, poor commission months, you got to think about your why. Why am I doing this? Well, some people, it could be, they could be motivated by success. They could be motivated by something positive, motivated in a sense where they say, I want to hit this goal. My why is that I really want to buy this Ferrari. A lot of people have that, call it vain or not. Some people, their goal is, I really want to buy this Ferrari. I'm going to bust my ass until I do it. And for them, their motivation is every morning when they go out and they knock on that door, or they're, about to make their cold call, whatever the case is, they're going to look at that red Ferrari and say, that's my why. Some people, they have 3 kids and you know, their marriage is falling apart, and their why is, I want my marriage to be whole, and I know that I can do that if I support my family and I am able to put my kids through school and get them a good education and be the best father or mother that I can be.
Right.
And for them, that's their why. They're like, so if I got to strap up and pick up this damn phone and call 500 people today, that's what I'm going to do. And they have pictures of their kids on their desk, right? And for me, like, I never had kids, you know, and I really don't, I mean, the Ferrari would be cool, but I, you know, it is what it is. For me, I was never really motivated by money per se. So I always struggled with, like, what is that why? And I was never good at sales. I'm obviously great at what I do now because I offer a good service and I love what I do. I love working with who I work with, my team, everybody, right? But I've always been absolutely terrible at sales. And every sales job I ever had, I was on the bottom of the totem pole for sales. I was like one of the last, the bottom.
That means you can learn it, right?
Bottom barrel producers.
It's proof
exactly.
that you can.
So I was always like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Like, I don't want to do this, whatever. And I think my why changed after the business failure because I was almost motivated by fear. That was the other side. You know, we mentioned being motivated by the positive, by the Ferrari, by whatever, the family, right? Mine was motivated so dramatically by, I never want to be broke in $100,000 of debt, living in my parents' house ever again.
I'll tell you what my why is, man. My why is, and maybe it's arrogance or otherwise, right? But I spent a lot of time as an athlete, you know, grinding, working hard, and being really good, being the best, right? For a long time, I was the best.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of other people with athletic backgrounds can do this, right? Ran in college, and I just translate that into other parts of my life, and I look out at, like, the lives that people live, and when I look at people, and I'll just say it because this is true. Sometimes I look at people and I'm like, I'm better than that guy. Like, straight up, I look at people and they're not happy. They have mediocre lives. They're going through the motions. And I'm like, I want to be as far away from that. I kid you not, dude. I'm like, I want to be as far away from that as possible.
Oh, man.
Because one, people piss me off. Like, mediocrity in general pisses me off. And it literally upsets me. Like, I can only be around people who aspire to the middle for so long before either I'm going to be mad and they're going to find out, or whatever. I just can't do it, right? Because that's just not how I try to live my life, right? And I don't mean to say in, like, I'm a maniac, but, like, when it comes to just being alive and the rare opportunity that we have to exist on Earth, you know, there's so many places that you can see, right? I don't understand people who don't want to travel. It's like, you know, have you ever felt, like, mesmerized or just been in awe at the sight of something new, right? Well, you could do that all the time. Just leave your house, leave your state, right? Have you ever met someone and had an amazing conversation, right, and learned something new? It's like, well, you can do that by meeting new people and being open-minded.
Absolutely.
You know, have you ever, like, you know, looked in the mirror and felt good about your body? It's like, well, you can do that by working out or whatever. Like, there's all these things that we can do that require work, though. They require effort and work. Same with finances, right? There are tons of people who try to justify, you know, that unhappiness, right? Hating their manager, being at a desk. They try to justify this thing because that's what most people are doing.
They give me a 401k and they give me benefits and, like, you know.
Right. And it's like, you tell them, it's like, hey, if you did literally anything else, like the minimum amount of work, you know, you could have more. And they're like, well, that's a little scary. And it's scary because they can't look out and see 7 other people that are doing that. You can't look out and see people who have Ferraris. You can't look out and see a ton of people who are, you know, being successful in sales. They don't have the example. It requires creating your own destiny. It requires kind of charting that path and doing it for yourself. But that's what I love about it. You know, like, you know, if I die tomorrow, man, it's like, I want to die tired, knowing that I put all my effort into whatever the heck it was the last thing I was doing.
Absolutely.
You know, like, I don't want to be.
I know. And your why can change. Like, I described the why of how I got to where I am now, which is I didn't want to ever be back there, right? But my why is now dramatically different. Now my why is like, dude, I never thought in a million years I'd be like, I was driving down the road and I was like, you know what? I would love to have a beautiful house and be married with a family.
Yeah.
And a dog. And I'm like, who the hell am I? What did I just think? What is wrong?
What is this?
What the hell?
Well, you're getting older. I'll tell you that for
so
one.
I was like, That thought's never crossed my mind in my life until literally a few days ago. And I was just like, that was something that I had a desire to do. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to do that if I don't have investment properties that are paying me residual income? How can I spend, now my mind's going crazy. Like, how can I spend time with my kids if I have to bust my ass 12 hours a day at this job?
Right.
You know, when I could have, so now we got to buy this Airbnb. Like, it's even more real now because,
you know, having work jobs, you know, and met people who are 20, 30 years our senior who complain about that. They say, man, I wish I could go to my kids.
I can't go to my kids'
game or whatever. My wife is calling me up mad because I'm never at home, even though I pay for everything.
So it's like, you know, all those experiences, they teach you something. They teach you, you know, and everything does. So do relationships. They teach you what you do and what you don't want. Yeah. And, you know, I want to touch on one point that I was thinking about before I forget that, you know, I guess it could be deep in a sense, but there's going to be a lot of people on your journey into sales or entrepreneurship that are going to tell you that it's not going to work. You know, you just mentioned that there's a lot of people that are risk adverse. Mm-hmm. And if they don't believe that they can do it for themselves, they don't believe that you can do it.
Ding, ding,
right?
ding.
Because everybody wants to believe that they're better than the next person. And they're like, you know what? I don't believe that I can do it. So I don't believe that you can do it. And you have to prove them wrong. Yeah. And you have to prove yourself wrong because sometimes you're going to get around those people and have those self-limiting beliefs because you pick them up from somebody else. It's not because you believe that you can't do it. It's because your mother or your father or somebody that you hang out with that has a shitty belief system, they didn't believe that they could do it. And then they put that belief onto you and you picked it up. So it's your job to believe in yourself and get around the right people in order to say, you know what, I'm not going to pick up that belief. Fuck that belief. I can do this. And I don't care if I have 3 shitty months in a row because that 4th month is going to blow up for me. And I'm going to put in the work every single day to make that happen.
Yeah. That's so important because this happens through osmosis. It happens automatically. So like you have to surround yourself with people who will not limit your beliefs because the people that you surround yourself with will limit your beliefs, right? It's
Absolutely.
really hard, you know, and through, I guess, routine or otherwise, there's ways that you can maintain kind of like your own belief system. But if you spend, you know, and you've probably been around it, you know, people who are super exciting all the time, and maybe you're having a bad day. It's like, and before you can even explain to them why your day's bad, it's like you just feel better because they're an exciting person. Vice versa. Are you having an exciting day? And this other person who's just decides to be upset, it's like, well, I don't, you know, you gotta get out the way, right? And so, in the same with beliefs, right? If you're around people, you know, imagine being with someone who's like, I am gonna be the biggest clothing brand in Miami, and every time you ask them, they never deviate from that. They always say, I'm gonna be the biggest brand. And you say, well, what about this other brand? They go, I'm gonna be the biggest brand, and you go, well, are you sure? Because, you know, retail is declining. I'm going to be the biggest brand. Yeah. Like, imagine someone who's that resolute versus someone who's like, I'm going to be the biggest brand. And you go, well, retail is declining. It's like, well, I think I can if I work hard. And the next time you ask them, it's like, are you sure that you can be the biggest brand?
And they're like, that's deep. Well, I'm guilty of that sometimes.
It's like, you know, because
I have been.
We all are. I'm not perfect by any means. We have to aspire to this.
Well, that's the importance of hanging around those other people that believe in you because
it becomes it's a positive echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's huge because what you're talking about, literally what you were describing right now is faith. If you have the faith that you are going to be the best and that you are going to earn X amount of money or you are going to be the largest brand, fear is contagious, but faith is super contagious, right? Both are equally contagious. Yep. So if you're around people that are fearful and don't believe that they can do shit, you're eventually going to catch that vibe and you're going to be like, you know what? I can't do shit either. You're right. Yeah. If you're around people that believe so heavily that they are the shit and that they are going to make it happen, you're eventually going to pick up that vibe. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people that are filled with faith, people that are filled with belief, people that are filled with, you know, that expectation for themselves and for you that you are going to step up to the plate. Yeah.
And low key, the world serves these people, y'all. And I don't mean that in like a weird mystical way, but because of that energy, like if you just think of it as energy, right? Faith or otherwise, it's like, if I'm someone who wants to work with someone, right, and I see someone who's like, I'm going to be the biggest brand, and that's all they ever say, and they're always excited, and they mean it, they're sincere about it, it's like, well, I could form a partnership with them, or I can form a partnership with this uncertain person, right? If I'm going to go out of my way to help somebody, I want to go out of my way to help somebody who's going to get up even if their leg gets cut off, right? They're going to get out of bed. They're going to drag themselves wherever they said they're going to do because they're crazy, right? They have that faith, right? They have that crazy faith that you like to talk about, right?
I do all
There's,
the time.
regardless of any good reason, right? Their mom dies, they get sick, whatever it is, you know that is their purpose.
Absolutely.
That's their why. And when you have a purpose, right, it does not matter what happens in life, right? If I say you got to run 15 miles or I'm going to shoot you, I guarantee you're going to get it done. It doesn't matter it literally doesn't matter if you're hungry, it doesn't matter if your hip hurts, right? It doesn't matter if
You're gonna make it happen.
whatever, you're going to get it done. And that's how you have to be in pursuing any reasonable pursuit in life, because when you look out, you know, using that same analogy, there might not be anybody else in that same predicament. There might not be anybody else trying to do what you're going to do. There's going to be no example, right? There's going to be, the only person is going to be you and the people on your team who go, you know what, I believe you.
Absolutely.
Right? Otherwise, they're going to say, hey, you know what, you did your best, and they'll slap you on the back, and that's going to be it.
That's true.
You'll just.
Well, I touched on this, I believe, in another episode, but I'll touch on something that was super impactful that you were there for. My dad, when I first got into sales, was always like, what the hell is the matter with you? My dad, and he's like, I don't understand. What's the matter with you? Why would you get this job when you could go work at the bank? You've got your degree. Like, he was like, you get full benefits, a 401k, like, you could be retired at 65, whatever the case is. And so my dad, like, he's from that old school Boston mentality where it's like, you got to work hard. You got to build up your 401k, you got to get matching, you got to get benefits. That's like the American dream. Yeah. And my dad's living it right now. Like I respect my father greatly because his dream was, I'm going to work my ass off, build up a 401k. I'm going to get Social Security, get my 401k, do my thing, and I'm going to retire at 65, and I'm going to live a great life. I'm going to golf this is literally what he always said. I'm going to golf every single day, and I'm going to work in my garden and like make the house look beautiful. Yeah. My dad literally did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he's super happy and he's super content.
Nice.
My dad golfs in the freaking snow, in the rain. My dad does not give a shit. He's literally golfing.
Man loves golfing
every day. And he's always in his garden doing his thing. And he loves that. But my dad, when I first got into sales, he really was hard on me because he was like, why the hell would you go months and months without money? You've literally asked me for money 3 times. I'm never giving you money again.
Yeah.
And of course he did. He continued to help me when I needed it. But I never wanted to ask because I felt like kind of ashamed. So I only asked if I really was in a bind, like bad. Like I maxed out my credit cards. And unfortunately that happens when you're in sales. Like you're sometimes living on credit, you're living on debt, trying to get to the next paycheck. And, I always had this belief, like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to make it. And my dad was always like respectfully, like, you're a friggin' idiot.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy because now I'm at a point where I am making the most money I've ever made in my life. I paid back all of my debtors. I'm in a great position right now. I have a fantastic team and I love what I do. And I heard my dad say something for the first time in my life. I literally broke down in tears at my birthday party where he was like, he literally got up in front of everyone and he said, I just want to say, I always played it safe. I played by the rules. I hate risk. I hate it. I wanted to go to the same job and know where I was going every day, know what I was getting a paycheck, I wanted it all to be stable so that I could retire and live my life, right? And I didn't want the stress. And he said, Andrew didn't do that. He did the complete opposite. And he is like crazy. Like the guy's jumping off of the edge of a cliff and he's taking an all commission job like a maniac. Who does that anyways? Like that's freaking crazy.
I remember that.
And then he was like, but he found a way to make it happen. And I am so proud of him. And I'm like breaking down crying because I don't even remember the last time, if ever, I heard my father say, I'm very proud of my son. I'm really proud of you. And that was huge because it just goes to show that the people that are completely against your vision sometimes, or against, you taking those risks and taking those leaps, the people that tell you that you can't do it and you shouldn't do it and you should go get that stable 9 to 5 and, whatever the case is, you can't start that business, it's not going to be successful. They could be the same people that they respect you so much and they're so proud of you and they love you so much because you were successful doing it, because maybe it came from a lack of belief in themselves that they didn't think they could do it.
Yeah.
And that was a fact with my father. He didn't think he could do it because he had never done it before. And when I had done it, he was so proud of me that he made this like public spectacle in front of everybody where he started crying. You know, and that just goes to show that no matter what you're going through, no matter who's against you, you have to be for yourself, and you have to just understand and realize your worth and where you want to be, and focus on that vision, focus on that goal. And no matter how many shitty months you have, no matter who you have to ask for money, whatever the case is, you have to have that belief in yourself that I'm going to fucking make it. I am going to fucking make it. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I have to sleep in a fucking car, I have to be homeless, whatever the case is, I'm going to make this happen. And it might look like shit right now. It might look like I have nothing, but I have this vision in my mind where I see myself on the other side of this, and I see myself in that beautiful house with the family. I see myself in that red Ferrari. I see myself with the new G-Wagon, AMG, whatever the case is, but I see it in my driveway. I see, you know, the whatever the case is, whatever your vision is, you have to believe in that so much. Write it down on paper. Believe it, read that shit every single day, and believe that you have what it takes to make it happen.
Yeah. You gotta believe this shit. When we say believe, I mean we mean believe. Like you gotta believe it. Like you know the song lyrics
crazy
to whatever your favorite song is. Like you gotta be able to recite that shit. It can't be an idea that you haven't formulated in the words. Like write it down. You know, it has to be so real, because at the end of the day, you know, even your family, these people that love you, and it might be hard, right? Because they might be the people who supported you when you're down, right? And so you feel obligated to them. But at the end of the day, you have your life. And it's yours. Other people have their life, and it's theirs. And there's different cultural contexts and all that. That's just, you know, my personal belief. You own your outcomes, right? And you can't blame anybody else. You can't say, well, I always wanted to do this, but my dad. And it's like, well, what about your dad? You know, he always wanted to do something else, but maybe he has some other reasons, right? So we all kind of have to do what we have to do. And like I said before, you know, you're either going to do what's required or you won't. And if you don't, you're going to have a long list of reasons, right? But what I've found is when I talk to people who are successful, the list is very short. I ask them, why are you successful? I just never gave up. I just never fucking stopped. Like, people who are successful do not have a long list of reasons, ever. It's always so simple. And that's why it gets turned into like cliches. It's like, oh, we just got to, because that's it. It's like, and then people always go, well, you know, I'm broke and my mom comes from, and it's like, okay, you know? And so it's like, what do you want me to do about it? I can't change where your mom came from.
That's true.
Or whatever. It's like,
and then they start preaching about life-work balance. Dude, we could do a whole nother episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about life-work balance. The short version is fuck. Good luck. Good luck, bro. You're always living, and sometimes you work. Like that's the short version of it. But in any case, we're running out of memory, I think, on these cards. So we'll wrap it up. I'm Forrest, because I don't think we introduced ourselves. I'm Forrest. I
am Andrew.
And we are the #1 podcast in the world. Hope you appreciated what we talked about today. Before we leave, because this is social media, go ahead and hit the follow button if you're looking at us on Instagram. Hit subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, as you should. And if you're on one or the other, definitely go over to the other one and follow us there. We have a ton more content coming to you. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
No. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you. If you stayed here till the end, thank you so much. We are honored. And we can't wait to discuss more topics with you. If you have any topics that you suggest that you want to hear, please put it in the comments. If it is on Instagram, you know, you're welcome to DM us. If it's on YouTube, put it in the comments. We will read it. We will respond. And we look forward to connecting with you. We certainly appreciate you. And we are excited to help you discover what it takes to become the #1 version of yourself.
Yes, sir. All right.